Dumela. Abshe. Dimasiari. Sanbona. Molweni. And Goeiemiddag. Lochani. Program Director, Minister Lindiwe Zulu. Bakbiza bandla bakthi ngubani? Ah, not Leo. Nje bathi sisi. No, Leo ngisithakazelo ngiyasazi. What there's a nice nickname I heard. I want to repeat it in cabinet. Ministers and deputy ministers, MECs who are also here, representatives of various civil society organizations. I've been very delighted to hear that there are so many civil society organizations that are represented here, including our traditional leaders, various movements, unions, ratepayers associations, you name it, they are here. I'm very delighted. Representatives of NEDLAC, representatives of development agencies, and all other participating organizations, members of parliament and portfolio committees, representatives of the United Nations and related organizations. I am really delighted to be here. And I may not comment on all the issues that were raised in the plenary session. There are some that I picked up. I also picked up the fact that you want to appoint certain people to cabinet. To fill certain positions. I heard that very clearly. 4 years since I spoke of the need for this social sector summit, in my very first State of the Nation address, and after many months of preparation, it is wonderful that we have finally reached a point where we've convened this summit. This is a summit that I've longed wanted to participate in. I've long wanted to be in your presence so that I can hear precisely what all of you are doing, the various tasks that you have voluntarily opted to embark upon. There were, of course, a number of factors that delayed the convening of this summit, and obviously COVID-19 played a critical role in all this. But if you were to ask the minister, she will tell you that I kept saying I've held all these other summits, and the social sector summit is an important one, and I'd like us to go ahead. And let me tell you, I am really pleased from the bottom of my heart, much as it is late. Thank you very, very much for being here, all of you together. And give yourself a round of applause. Now, with our own country and indeed the world now in the process of recovery, I do want to salute civil society organizations for the role that you all played in the national effort to contain and to overcome the pandemic that we went through. There are a few words that one can put forward to describe the pride as well as the gratitude that I felt and that we felt as a country as we saw our resilient and committed non-governmental organizations serving the people of South Africa during these difficult days. Where I sat, where I looked, as I saw many of your organizations involved in dealing with the pandemic, as our people were getting sick, as our people were dying, and as our people lost their livelihoods, I saw many of your organizations getting into gear, top gear for that matter, assisting and supporting. Where government had capacity and resource constraints, it was your organizations that stepped into the breach. It was your organizations that lived up to an unbelievable amount of capacity and strength. Rick Menell spoke just a minute ago, and one of the things that we set up, which he was also part of, was the Solidarity Fund. The Solidarity Fund, and I can tell you now, I can't think of any other country that set up such an effort where civil society, working together with government, as well as businesses, came to the fore and contributed. Our country had the biggest cooperation during COVID amongst all our stakeholders working together, but I must tell you that the social sector distinguished itself much more than many others. And thank you very much for the work that you did. You came forward, you delivered relief through your organizations, and that is when we in government truly realized that much as we believe that we are the government, we are the mighty state and government, we are not able to execute most of the initiatives that we want to without the participation, the help, and the support of all of you as civil society organizations. That's where I thank you, and please give yourself a round of applause. The partnership and collaboration, as well as the alignment between government and civil society organizations during the pandemic, was an example of how we can work and how we must work to overcome many of our society's challenges. And we have challenges as a nation in the galore manner. We have so many challenges. But I do firmly believe, as Chulani was saying, that our real ability to address these challenges is when we work together. What we saw during the pandemic was a model from which we can draw many lessons as we strive to ensure that the rights that our people have in terms of our constitution or enshrined in our constitution are not just mere words on paper, but that those rights are translated into progress and prosperity for every South African man, woman, and child. A strong, vibrant, and activist civil society is key to the development of our nation. And anybody who does not believe that is blind, because this country, from time immemorial, has really been able to do a great deal of things and achieve progress through civil society being activists. It is therefore critical that the interface between government and civil society is improved and that it is also strengthened, and it must also be emboldened. We have a common appreciation that we are all heading in the same direction and on the same road towards the realization of a better South Africa. We know that to reach this goal, we have to be partners and not adversaries. We have to work together, and we don't have to be enemies, because we have the same goal. But at the same time, we have an expectation that where we falter and fall short, that we will hold each other accountable. We will hold each other to our promises. Now, being partners does not mean that we are not critical of one another. As Tulani was saying here, being partners does not mean that, yes, we ignore some of the good that is being done, a good foundation that has been laid. It means that, yes, we can be critical of the missteps along the way, of the shortcomings, but we can also say, as we are on the same path, this is the right path that we should take. There is an expectation that we can require transparency and accountability of each other. Since before the dawn of our democracy, civil society organizations in South Africa have taken up the causes of marginalized people in our communities, have taken up the cause of the oppressed, have taken up the cause of the most vulnerable. From the HIV and the AIDS pandemic to substance abuse, from poverty to illiteracy, from unemployment to gender-based violence, from civil society has been crafting, constructing strategies and driving many collaborative approaches that put the needs of the poor and the vulnerable first. At the height of the HIV/AIDS pandemic, in the late 90s to the mid-20s, 2000s rather, civil society movements, and a number of them are here, waged a brave and a principled struggle against stigma, against discrimination that was being perpetrated against people living with HIV. But it also waged a real titanic battle against government intransigence, government refusal to do certain things. It was civil society that enabled us to have antiretrovirals being distributed to our people in large numbers. Civil society waged that struggle, and civil society won. Just as civil society fought to ensure equitable access to antiretroviral treatment, civil society bodies are now supporting the advocacy for access to COVID-19 vaccines. When the negotiations were taking place at the WTO, World Trade Organizations, it was civil society, even if they were not in the room where the ministers were negotiating, who were advocating the open access of COVID-19 vaccines. So civil society has continued to play a critical role. Just as civil society advocated for legal reform to tackle discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity in the early days of our democracy, civil society today continues to speak out against practices and beliefs that discriminate against the LGBTQI+ community. And I want civil society to continue speaking out against those who discriminate against LGBTQI+ people. Just as civil society has consistently confronted entrenched practices that are discriminatory and harmful to women and girls, it now plays a key role in the fight against gender-based violence and femicide. It is your organizations that are raising this issue as an issue that not only government must take up, but all of society should take up as well. 28 years into our democracy, the role of civil society is more than ever critical. Poverty, unemployment, and inequality remain the most pressing challenges facing South Africa. Our society is confronted by lawlessness, by crime and corruption, gender-based violence and femicide, hunger and malnutrition. The HIV/AIDS pandemic has been given less and less attention during this COVID pandemic, and we are seeing the numbers of infections continuing to grow, and it is this civil society that has always been in the forefront of the fight against the spread of HIV that must once again take this fight up so that we do not see HIV growing in an uncontrollable way, the infections thereof. But over the past few days, we've witnessed some of the serious challenges that our country faces, scenes of violent protest. We've seen damage to public infrastructure. And in some cases, we have also seen the loss of life in areas such as Kagiso in the West Rand, Krugersdorp, and Tembisa in Ekurhuleni. Now, these incidents are of grave concern, but they also highlight many of the challenges that our country is facing. As we address these incidents, we need to distinguish between legitimate protests and criminality, because unless we distinguish between the two, we are going to lose what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. Yes, there are community concerns and grievances that need to be addressed. Concerns that we should all have to prevent loss of life, destruction to property. Today, we also saw mob justice being played out. Our people, because of their anger, going out to confront a number of people, and there being mob justice. And we cannot, as South Africans, reach a level where we just resort to mob justice. We need to be dealing with the problems that we have, working together as communities, working together with our law enforcement agencies. We can all understand the public outrage in Kagiso that was sparked by the gang rape of 8 young women last week, and we all deeply and sincerely share in the pain of those young women, their families, as well as the neighboring communities around Kagiso. Police, as we speak now, are hard at work, and a number of people have already been arrested, and they are investigating fully exactly how that whole incident occurred. And we must commend our police for apprehending suspected illegal minors and shutting down their operations. And this we applaud the police for. They are doing the best that they can. And we must support them in the various things that they get involved in as police, because quite often they also put themselves in the line of danger and they put their lives on the line as they seek to protect our communities. Now, they are trying their very best, and I think we must applaud them for that. Now, the efforts that they are making to catch those responsible for this heinous crime of gang raping these young women is something that we would like to ensure that as we give them the support, we encourage them to do more. Because there are quite a number of other communities around the country where illegal mining has been taking place, where the Zamazamas have been active, and all I can say is that the Commissioner of Police, together with the Minister, have set up teams that are going to deal with this issue of illegal mining and deal with those Zamazamas in the very illegal activities that they get involved in, particularly in terrorizing our communities. We will put this to an end, and we will do it as effectively as possible. Now, this horrific crime is a reminder that as government and as society, we must do more also to tackle gender-based violence and femicide. Over the last few years, as a result of cooperation between government and civil society, who you represent, we have strengthened the response of the criminal justice system to such crimes. As part of the National Strategic Plan that was crafted against gender-based violence and femicide, we have enacted new legislation and focus on the capacity of the South African Police, the National Prosecuting Authority, our courts, and various support measures to ensure that we do support survivors and prosecute offenders. We know that the NPA continues to place special emphasis on prosecuting these crimes, obtaining conviction rates which are much higher than we've seen before, of up to 74%. We want to encourage the National Prosecuting Authority and the police to do more in their common efforts in the fight against gender-based violence and femicide. Government, represented by the South African Police Service and the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, will convene an imbizo with the community of Kagiso over the weekend to fully interrogate issues of illegal mining and the criminality that is taking place in that area. As government, we remain steadfastly committed in our fight against corruption. In the last financial year, for example, the Specialized Commercial Crimes Unit finalized 380 cases with a 90% conviction rate. Over that period, 380 government officials were convicted for corruption and related crimes, whilst 209 people were convicted for private sector crimes. The Asset Forfeiture Unit has completed 370 confiscations, estimated to be valued at 406 million rand. There are currently 82 state capture cases that are under investigation, with 65 accused persons who are already enrolled for prosecution in 20 cases. There's clearly much more that needs to be done, but the fight against corruption is gaining momentum in South Africa, because we have decided that we do want to root corruption out of South African soil. Overcoming these and other challenges requires all sectors of society to bring their respective capabilities together and to unite behind a common vision. Civil society organizations are where our people are. You are where our people are. When one looks at the number of organizations that you represent the full body of the population of South Africa. Whether people like it or not, by being here, you are representative of the people of South Africa. You do so whether as NGOs, as community-based organizations, as professional organizations, faith-based organizations, academia, worker representatives, even traditional leaders. That is who you are as people who are gathered here in this conference. One of the priorities of this administration that I lead is to drive a people-centered, localized development process through the district development model. And I'm glad that in some of your inputs, you have referred to this model that we have put in place. Because this model seeks to promote an approach to development, a matter that is so close to your heart, an approach to development that takes into account the needs, the circumstances, and the priorities of our people on the ground. Now more than ever, we count on your breadth of representation, the diversity that you are made of, also the diversity of knowledge and experience and expertise that you represent, so that you can work with us, but also so that you can also guide government interventions where and how best we can also allocate the scarce resources that government has. Civil society reaches where business and government often cannot. Some of you also spoke about the role of business. Yes, business plays a key role, and I would like to suggest that when we next meet, you should not only have government, when we have our next summit, and I do want us to have the next summit. We must have another summit, because we cannot just have one summit and think that we've arrived at all the solutions. We must have another summit, maybe even next year. I don't know how much this one cost. It depends on the availability of money. But we must have another one, and in that one, we must have representatives not only of government, but also of business. Business must also come and join us. And yes, we must also have a good body of international organizations, because many of those organizations support the work that we do here, that your organizations are doing. So we must draw them in as well, as we bring in government, as we bring in business, because if we bring all those organizations together, then we have the totality of the various role players that need to address the challenges we face. You as civil society, you have a solid track record, very solid track record of organic, homegrown interventions and activations that yield results. You are not Mickey Mouse entities. You are real entities that have interventions that have results. That I want to be able to say to you. For this reason, this summit for me is crucial for us to align our efforts as well as to align our actions. Our most pressing priority right now is to recover from COVID. We are hard at work implementing also the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan to grow our economy, but more importantly, to grow the economy so that we can create jobs. It is only through a stronger economy that we will be able to lift millions of our people out of poverty, where we can expand the rollout of comprehensive social support to improve also the delivery of services and create employment so that our people can lead dignified lives. We have listened to your ideas, and I've picked up a lot of ideas. But I've also heard a number of the proposals that you've put forward, how to drive an inclusive and equitable economic recovery that leaves no one behind. We also thank you for your participation in ongoing processes to develop a comprehensive social compact. As civil society organizations, as you continue with your difficult work, you are confronted with challenges that also demand our attention. Foremost amongst these challenges are the financial constraints. Many of your organizations, if not all, face serious financial challenges. You are short of funding, both operational as well as project funding as well. And I'm sure I speak for all of you by so saying. Like your global counterparts, South African civil society has been impacted by fewer resources. You've also been impacted negatively by reprioritization of donor budgets, worsening economic conditions and other factors. And what you're going through from a resource constraint point of view is not unique to South Africa only. The entire world, many countries are going through precisely through that. Many civil society organizations are struggling to find money to keep their doors open. A number of them are even closing. They are struggling to pay their staff. They are also struggling to implement their programs. The COVID-19 pandemic has only worsened the situation that many of these organizations face. Currently, government invests substantially in supporting the work of civil society organizations through the Department of Social Development. And I've heard you very clearly, you want the department to be given more money. This I have heard very clearly. And let me say, I agree with you. I agree with you. Now, in addition, the National Development Agency provides grant funding and capacity building to the sector. We have to work collectively to develop sustainable and consistent funding streams for civil society, including emerging community-based organizations. I was very impressed to hear Taripani saying that we need to have social enterprises so that civil society organizations can also themselves raise or find ways of raising money. And let me say, I've been hugely impressed also by a number of young people who are either, at university or have just finished, are collaborating. I find them collaborating amongst themselves, setting up foundations, setting up civil society organizations, raising money amongst themselves, and embarking on wonderful projects of addressing some of the needs of society. And I think we have to be creative. Whilst government is a great source of funding for civil society organizations, Yes, while donor funding, be it business, be it international organizations, are also good sources of funding for the programs that you embark upon. We also need to be self-reliant, as Taripani said, self-reliant and set up social entrepreneurship entities that are going to, yes, raise money. And we can do so by getting all of society to invest in the work that you do. All of societies to contribute in the work that you do so that you can help in addressing some of the challenges that you face. The second challenge, of course, which a number of you spoke about, is capacity shortage. Capacity shortage that undermines the effectiveness of many organizations. And I've heard reports of some civil society organizations being unable to submit annual reports as required by the NPO Act simply because they lack the expertise. And Tulani came up with a very good idea, I thought, where he suggested that there needs to be shared services. Not all of you have the capacity to go and hire bookkeepers or accountants or have your statements properly and professionally audited, but you can club together in the various apex sectors where you are. Club together, share services, even share lawyer services, accounting services, engineering services, and many others. So this, to me, is a wonderful idea to bridge the lack of capacity or shortage of capacity that you have. Besides the lack of professional skills, there are other difficulties with regard to recruiting highly qualified personnel. Qualified personnel are often lost to government and other sectors because civil society organizations do not have the wherewithal to pay competitive salaries. Civil society needs an enabling regulatory framework. And some of you spoke about this. Many social sector organizations find that there are too many difficult and onerous red tape procedures that are holding you back. And we need to address that. With the red tape process that we have set up, come forward and also point out the red tape that you are struggling under so that we can remove the red tape and we can ensure that you do your work. Red tape must not hold you back from doing your work. Now, in this regard, the Department of Social Development has published the Non-Profit Amendment Bill, Organizations Amendment Bill. It seeks to strengthen the existing regulatory regime, but it also seeks to, in a more possible way, to make sure that they create the environment that will make it easier for you without constraining the sector to do your work. The bill seeks to increase efficiencies and also to reduce and cut out red tape. This is in recognition of the benefit civil society brings to policy making and to the provision of services in our society. Because apart from all the other work that you do, you also participate in policy formulation, in helping even government to shape out much better policies when it comes to a variety of issues that impact on the lives of our people. We must acknowledge that corruption has contributed to the funding, yes, to the funding of many of your organizations, the challenges that you are facing as a sector. By way of example, the Special Investigating Unit has uncovered on how some civil society organizations were set up with the sole purpose to loot the National Lotteries Commission. This denied legitimate and deserving organizations the opportunity to access funding. It is good that the investigations are progressing, that a number of arrests are being made, and civil action is being taken and will be taken against a number of people. At the same time, we must acknowledge that there needs to be greater accountability as well as transparency in the sector itself. It is unacceptable for the lion's share of donor and other funding to be spent on just paying, senior staff or funding their lifestyles instead of funding programs. It is not correct. High standards of governance, proper accounting, and due diligence must apply also to our civil society organizations. So this summit has provided, in my view, an opportunity to hear more about some of these challenges and how they can be overcome. It has been an opportunity to hear more about the work that civil society organizations are doing in communities across the country and how we are taking stock of the reports that have come from all various provinces through the provincial dialogues and roundtables. And I'm particularly pleased that before this summit took place, you were able to hold your provincial dialogues. And I think, and I do firmly believe that before we hold our next summit, possibly next year or so, we should have those provincial dialogues so that we thoroughly workshop the issues and come up with solutions. So you can hear my enthusiasm about your next summit, and I do want to come there. The signing of the Social Sector Framework Agreement today is what I believe is a milestone. Some of you were saying we're only coming on condition the President is going to sign the framework agreement. Am I going to sign it? Yes, I am going to sign it. I will sign it. Because through that, and this is a key milestone, through that we are establishing a more comprehensive and inclusive framework for collaboration. Collaboration that recognizes, but also that supports and empowers civil society. And for me, this is what has been so important about this summit, because it sets the basis for us to foster a strong state civil society partnership to tackle some of the challenges our country faces: poverty, inequality, employment, and to deepen democratic participation. This is how we deepen democratic participation, by you representing the various formations that make up the totality of our population. We must seize this opportunity to deepen our collaboration as we build a stronger South Africa, as we make sure that we leave no one behind. And if there is a way of ensuring that we leave no one behind, this summit is one of the key pillars of ensuring that no one is left behind. So, I would like to thank all of you as representatives of civil society organizations for taking part in this process. By coming here, you have embarked on this journey, yes, with me, with all of us in government, and indeed with all of us as South Africans. I want to especially thank the Department of Social Development and thank Minister Zulu for having really played a key role in making sure that we have this summit. And of course, for the holding of this summit, it had to be presented to Cabinet, and the Cabinet had to approve. It also had to agree on the budget that she was going to spend. Nearly everything, every plate of food you ate, every bed that you slept on had to be approved, and she presented it. So she's done very well in that regard. And I also want to thank the ministers, ministers from Cabinet and deputy ministers who also been here to support the work that Minister Zulu is doing. And this is how we're working in government, to break down the silos and make sure that there is more integration, there is more working together. At the next summit, I will want the whole Cabinet possibly to be there so that we can also participate. So I want to thank you all and thank even the officials. The officials have worked very hard. I think you should give the officials more applause than me and the minister. They've done very well. And I'd like to thank the people who are in the leadership of the civil society organizations. Thulani plays a key role, not only here, but also at NEDLAC. When we meet at NEDLAC, civil society has a very confirmed place of participation, and they are very vocal. There are some of them who are here who come with Thulani. They are very vocal, they are strong, they stand up to government, they stand up to business, and Labour is also there. They also speak out on a number of issues. So I also thank them for not holding back, because they speak out as strongly as Thulani spoke out. Let's thank him and those that he works with. I have no doubt that government, civil society, and all social partners will continue to work together in a most meaningful way beyond this summit, as we have done for many years, to improve the lives of our people, but more importantly, this time as we build back better, but focusing on implementation. We need, as beyond signing this framework agreement, to then look at how we implement all the measures or the interventions that are in that framework agreement. So I really welcome the fact that we finally arrived at drafting this agreement together with us and putting it together, and I've looked at it. I'm in full support of what it contains, and we will go ahead and implement. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you very much. Please take your seats.